Hi friend, this is Sanjay Kumar, creator of SelectorsHub. In this tutorial, you will learn all about CSS Selector from the basic to advanced level. There is no prior knowledge as such required for this tutorial. If you are a beginner or you don't know anything about like HTML, then also fine. If you have a basic knowledge of HTML or if you have ever opened any website in DOM, that's a great. I will help you to learn each and every step, and this is highly recommended if you're coming from automation testing background or you want to start your career and you want to learn about you want to start with automation testing or the web development. This is definitely a highly recommended course to you. If you are using Selenium, Cypress, WebDriver, IO, this course is going to help you a lot to save a huge amount of time, and definitely it will be a big plus in your skill set. So I will teach you all about like differences between Xpath, CSS Selector, different kinds of tricks writing CSS Selector with basic functions, advanced functions, and with respect to parent, child, etc. So stay tuned and let's continue. Thank you. Hi friend. So let's get started. In this tutorial, one, we will learn about like what is CSS Selector, importance of this selector in web automation, and the different types of CSS selector, and few more things. So CSS selector, this is again an address of a web element in web page. So like any other selector, it is used to locate a web element in web page. The big thing about here it is that we locate now an element on a web page on the basis of its property. Like you see here, if a parachute or if a flight take off from here and it used to go to another place, how it used to locate the other place? It used to locate with its properties, like uh, with axis, like longitude and all those directions things. I'm not that expert in that. I'm not a pilot, but I hope you got that point. Like with the name, it can't go to that place. Like in like Google Map, we used to put the name of that place, like that I want to go to this city, so that used to give you the map and then you follow that path. So with the name you can't. So basically text you can't use. That is the main thing I want to highlight here, like for this element. So here we cannot use the uh, text property, this one, to locate this element. Here we will have to basically use the property. These are the property of this element, like what is the attribute name is there, the tag name is there, so that we can use to locate an element with CSS selector. So it's an again address, and there are multiple ways to write an CSS selector that we will learn in coming lectures. Importance, it is again as important as Xpath or any other CSS selector, sorry, any other locator, and it is as important like tires of a car. Like if your car doesn't have good tires, then it will not run for long, right? It will break down, it will stop just in like single run. So we will have to make sure that we write a good locators, good selectors, good CSS selector in our script. So it is really important for an automation script. Like if you are writing in Cypress, WebDriver IO, or in JS framework where you use only CSS selector, not XPath or any other locator, then in that case you will have to make sure that you write the robust and very stable selector so that your script lasts for long, and you need not to like change or fix your selectors again and again, and they don't get changed immediately. Type of CSS selector, actually like fundamental concept, there is nothing like this, no not a type of CSS selector, nothing like that. It we used to define it on the basis of our writing pattern. Like sometimes we used to call it like absolute CSS selector because there are indexes, and then we start calling it as a relative CSS selector because we are writing CSS selector with respect to some parent. or child, or with respect to, you can say, any other element. So that's where we start calling that, like, to convince our way that this is the pattern we are following to write the CSS selector. Same goes for XPath as well, actually. Like, there we use the term absolute XPath, relative XPath. So same here, like, for CSS selector, you can say that there is an absolute means the it defines basically the type is on the basis of the way we write, but actually there is no type. Like, this is very important, CSS versus CSS selector. In general, like on a day-to-day basis, like while talking or while conveying things between testers and developers, we very frequently say, okay, change the CSS selector, change the CSS, maybe CSS is breaking. But actually, for selector, when we say that CSS is not the right term for selectors. CSS is actually the cascading style sheet. I said the full form of CSS, cascading style sheet. This is basically used to design and the define the property of this element. Like, it is looking at it is showing in red color, capital letters, or you can say, like, here you see when it currently it is blue, and when hover it's red. So this is defined through CSS, these designing pattern and the look. But to locate this element, where is this on the page, and then performing some action on that, that is where we write the address, and that is the CSS selector. So here, for us to locate the element, right term is CSS selector, not CSS. CSS is wrong term for selectors. CSS is the cascading style sheet which is used to define the means design pattern here, like how these elements will look, what behavior they will change when we'll hover, when we click, or whatever we do. Okay, I hope you understood. So this is the right term, CSS selector. For when we are talking about selectors, locator, then this is the right term. It's not CSS. CSS is different, something different. XPath versus CSS selector. Okay, so this is very common question asked, and people always discuss about it. Like, the very first thing before that, XPath and CSS selector both are the address of the web element. It is used to locate the element. Now, coming to that difference between, so not going in that definition thing, because XPath comes from XML query and all, and then CSS selector is based on the okay, so basically XPath is like based on XML queries, and CSS selectors are based on the properties of an element, like ID. Means we can use the attributes only, attribute values, whatever there is in this DOM available for that particular element or in the DOM. While to write X, I mean, the biggest difference when you will be writing that is that the text you can use to write the XPath, these text, and which is very powerful function in XPath. I personally feel like that's a very huge, like I mean, one of the very good feature which XPath supports, while CSS Selector doesn't support that, is that we can use the text function, and it makes like very easy, because most of the, I mean, many a times we get the text, but if we have to write the CSS selector, we can't use this. So that's the biggest difference while writing XPath and CSS selector. And of course, XPath has a, I mean, means very vast number of functions and easy, more flexibility actually there. So yes, but otherwise, if we talk about performance thing, yes, CSS selector theoretically is faster than XPath, because when you write XPath, I mean, not going into that how this work in system here in engine, but according to the latest browser engines, all are developed in JS. So due to that, like, now there is not a big difference in XPath and CSS selector functions, sorry, performance. With the naked eyes, we cannot figure out whether XPath is faster or CSS selector is faster. But yes, theoretically, CSS selector is faster than is better than XPath in performance. So major two difference is like XPath, you have more flexibility, you can use the text function, while in CSS Selector you cannot use that. XPath doesn't support shadow DOM, CSS Selector supports shadow DOM. All those things we will learn in coming lectures. And yeah, so these are some of the key differences between XPath and CSS Selector. But if you get easily CSS Selector, always prefer CSS Selector over XPath. Then in the next lecture we will learn different functions about XPath and how to write that, about CSS selectors and how to write that. Thank you. Hi friend, so let us learn CSS selectors, how to write CSS selector, and what are the important and different functions in CSS selector. There are a lot of functions. The very important and the very first function is has an ID value. So whenever there is an ID available in the web element, for the web element in the DOM, then we can use hash and ID value. If class is there, then dot class value. If tag name, you find that that's a unique tag name, then you can use tag name. This is a function like we have in XPath. Tag name, open square bracket, attribute name is equal to attribute value. You can write attribute value inside double quote, single quote, or without quote. Anything is fine. This is more than one attribute. Right now I'm just showing all these functions, different functions, and I will show you the trick, and will give you the trick that you will not have to remember all these functions, but just for knowledge, yes, you should be aware of all these functions. There are special functions as well in CSS Selector, which you might have not seen in XPath, like dollar, cap, star. These are really good functions. Dollar is like ends with attribute value, cap is starts with star contains. And whenever you have to write in CSS selector, by ignoring the cases, like there is uppercase, lowercase in the value, then in that case you can use this case insensitive function I. It's a very useful and very good function and very small. I will show you all the use cases, don't worry about that. For now, we'll go walk you through all the XPath functions. There are more functions in CSS selectors, sorry, not XPath. Wherever I'm saying XPath, it's CSS selector basically. I want to say space combinator selects nodes that are descendants of the first element. So if you see here, like the first descendant of this one, so if we type div and then space h3, then this one it will give me. So the space combinator selects the nodes that are descendants of the first element. uh, Arrow combinator selects nodes that are direct children of the first element. So if you want the children of this element, so you can use the arrow, it will show you those children of that. I will show you all of them is practical and very easy to learn all these functions, and you need not to remember all of them, so don't worry about that. The combinator selects siblings. This means that the second element follows the first, though not necessarily immediately. We'll come to this lecture again. The plus combinator selects adjacent sibling, one to each other, then first child, last child, nth child, nth last child, first of type, last of type. So I hope like now you have heard some of the functions. In the coming lecture, we will see the practical example of all these functions and lot more. Thank you. Hi friend. So before I start writing the CSS selectors, first I want to show you what is the right platform to write and verify CSS selectors. Region, because most of the time like we all say that we should write our own selector. But what if we write right selector, I mean correct selector, but if we are verifying it at wrong place, which is giving the wrong result, that doesn't make sense. So for that we should understand that what is the right platform which will give us the right and correct results. There are multiple ways. The very first thing, whenever we say that we should write our own selectors, we basically say that yes, we will build our own selector and then we will verify it in browser tab tools. But what are the misconception and the uh, like wrong things which we have learned due to lack of innovation in the past? So let me show you the browser tab tools one. So suppose for an example, if we have to find out all the let's say drop downs, we have to find out which are built with select tag. Okay, so what we do, those who are not aware about select tag, so basically select tag in HTML is used to build the drop downs. Okay, I will explain little bit about HTML as well. Just before that, I will show you that what are the wrong things which we get from dev tool by using dev tools. So whenever someone asks us like how many select tags are there in this page, so how do we verify that? We verify like this: select as a in the previous lecture I have taught you guys that we can also write select CSS selector with tag name. So this is one of the examples. So here we have written the tag name select. So if you see that it is showing 6 matching nodes. This is how Chrome DevTools or any browser DevTools used to show one of 6. So basically it is showing 6 matching nodes. But here you will have to understand that this is not the uh, tool to verify CSS selectors only or XPath only. It also works on string matching functionality, string match basically, search functionality, which we used to call. So if you see that this select is matching with this string, so that is the reason that it is showing one of match. Then if you press enter, it will go to the next, and you will not find anywhere select tag over here in this DOM. Right. So this is giving basically the wrong result. And in fact, like if you start typing a wrong selector, then it will not tell you that this is wrong. It will just say 0 of 0 matching node. So neither you are able to learn nor you are able to verify the right selectors. Or in fact, like in some cases, even if you feel that you have written the right selector as well, then also it doesn't give you the result. Like for in case of this element, if you inspect this element from here, and you see that it is giving here, if we write with ID, if you remember I have showed you guys, there's a function. If ID value is there, we use hash and then ID value input. It is showing 0 of 0. So this we cannot verify. So a lot of things which we have learned as a like wrong concepts. The second thing we can some people use, and I mean not very much aware, is the console document.query selector, and there we can write CSS selector. Yes, this is another way, but the problem with this, like every time you have to come and go back, and here you will have to type that complete command document.query selector every time, which again takes a huge amount of time. And here you can write your selector, so like this way, but this will give the right result. But the problem with this is like every time you will have to go back here and see, or you can also open it here, but problem with this, like again, if you are in case of like this kind of element, that you cannot verify here as well. Like in case of shadow dom and all, you cannot verify even in console as well easily. There are ways, but not easy straightforward way you can verify. You see that it is giving 0 while this is there. So problems are there, misconception, wrong results we used to get, not the right results we are getting. Then what is the right platform to verify? Right platform is SelectorsHub. Let me show you how easily and what right result you will get it. Before that, first you will have to install Selector Hub. This one, this is a browser extension which is available for all the browsers. So how to install? Let us first install it. Just go to selectorshub.com or just Google SelectorsHub. You will get that. And here you see Chrome, Firefox, Edge, Opera, whichever browser you want. It is available with the similar functionality whatever I will show you guys. This is absolutely free, available for all the browser. you can just install, click on Chrome. Let's say I'm just giving the demo on Chrome. So here you click on add to Chrome. It's a single click installation. Click on add to Chrome, and once it is added you will find it here, and this is highest rated and in fact the best CSS selector tool in Chrome and in any browser store. In fact, if you search for CSS selector, it comes on top. So basically this is a fundamental and standard tool for CSS selector. After adding, if you see that it will not show here by default, extension icon will show here, so you will have to pin to toolbar. Once you pin, it will come here. Now let's see, do the same thing, and after installation I would request you that you refresh the page or restart, and don't try it on blank tab. Like many times people try it like this, they feel that this is google.com, but you see there is no URL, so you will have to open google.com. Make sure you have open. So I will show on the same page here on test project website. Right click on inspect. You will see left side DOM is there. On the right side there are a couple of tabs. You will not see immediately SelectorsHub here. Click on these two arrow icons. SelectorsHub will be the last tab, or you can do one thing, you can expand it here. You will see that it is here, and then you can take it back. Now here we have written, like you see we have written this select CSS selector, right? Paste this same thing over here and verify that how many select tags are there on this page. There are actually 0. There is no drop down with select tag. If you have written anything wrong, it will teach you that / not allowed, invalid CSS selector. So all that you would be able to learn and verify. This is right concept and right way to write and verify CSS selector. And in case of like shadow DOM and all, this also you would be able to verify. You will see that whatever we were not able to do here, you can do it here. Like here you write hashtag, and in fact like it used to auto suggest in the drop down as well, so you can take it here, you can verify that. So this way, this is the right platform basically to write and verify CSS selector, SelectorsHub. Okay, so hope you install it, and now let's, in the next tutorial we will learn how to write CSS selector by using CSS selector different functions and more things. Thank you. Hello friend. So now let's start writing a first CSS selector using CSS selectors functions. So as we have already learned, there are like a lot of CSS selector functions. So we'll start with the standard functions. ID value. So if there is any ID available, ID in your web element available, then we can use the ID value directly. So for an example, if we inspect here any element, let's say this element we have inspected, which is the header for this one, UL, this has ID. So if you open SelectorsHub, you just have to type hashtag, and there you go, it gives you in the drop down. So you can select this and press enter. So easily you can write with the help of this function has ID, and you can verify this one if ID is available. If ID will not be available, and let's say you have inspected this element and ID is not available, selectors will not suggest anything. If ID will be there, then it will suggest you, so that you can select and press enter. So this way you can write the CSS selector by using ID values. You will have to add hash before the ID value. Next function, class. You will have to add dot. Like for ID we have added hash, for class you will have to add dot. So here you just type dot, it will select, it will give you, and you press enter. Now the important point to remember here is that if a class is having spaces between the values, like here you see that this class value is quite long one, like menu item space menu item space menu item. You can also hide here this auto generated selectors for now. So here you see that menu item space menu item, lot of spaces are there. So when you will be writing the CSS selector for class, you will have to replace all the spaces by dot. one by one. So remember, all the spaces you will have to remove by dot, and starting with dot when if you are writing CSS selector with class. So here basically you just in CSS selector you just put dot. What selector sub will does, it will replace all the spaces by dot here, and it will give you the value. But here you see that there is a space at the end as well, so avoid using this way because it will show you zero matching node. So that is the region that it is giving zero matching node, because a space is there at the end. If you take any other value which is correct, so yeah, this one here, if you type dot it will give you, and whatever number matching node it will show you. So this is good example, this one, that you got to know that if there is a space, junk space, and you have to trim the value, then in that case avoid using that class. If there is a no space like at the end or in the beginning, then it's fine. You can just replace all the spaces in between the values, and there should be only one space. Remember it, if it is like two spaces, then in that case it will not work, your selector will not work, it will start behaving differently. So yeah, so this way you can write the CSS selector. Replace, start with dot, replace all the space by one dot. And in fact, like in CSS selectors hub, you just put dot, it will show you with that. Tag name attribute is equal to attribute value. Yes, so let's say for an example, if we have to write in CSS selector for platform here, and this is the one. So here what, how we can start, and we want to and remember, as we have learned in the previous lecture, that we cannot use the text for CSS selector. We will have to use only attribute values, attribute and attribute values. So here suppose like drop down toggle, so this we will have to think in behind in our mind that these attribute values are stable or not and unique or not. Based on that we used to write the CSS selector. So drop down toggle, this looks like not unique, doesn't look like unique, because drop down toggle must be used for this, must be used for this, must be used for this as well, because like this also has drop down, these all are header values, so they could have the similar values. Platform, yes, this attribute looks stable, unique, so we can use this one, we will use this one. Always prefer that one which you feel that this is unique, this is not dynamic, this is stable, so that use that attribute. Has, of course we will not use. Drop down, of course we will not use, because again this kind of value could have multiple elements, so this is looks unique. So what we will do, we will start with tag name. You just type, select this one, then open a square bracket, and here we want with title, so you just type T, and there you go, all the options are available. Here you can select and press enter. It is giving two matching node. If you want to make it unique, yes, we want to make it unique, and you can choose any other option, any one more attribute, like we have this one. So attribute name is equal to attribute value, and if you want to add more condition, like in Xpath we have end function, so here as well, like you can add more attribute as well. So this you can select and press enter. Until you are not able to find it unique, you can keep building it. So this way you can write the CSS selector based on the attribute name is equal to attribute value. If you want to make it unique and you are not able to make it unique, that we will that I will show you. First thing, like this is how we can make the CSS selector. We can write the CSS selector based on the attribute and attribute value and tag name. Then tag name star sorry dollar. If we want to write in CSS selector whose value, ending value, we want to pick only ending value. So for an example, let's say we want to write a CSS selector for all those elements which has title as form in the last. So what we will do, we will type this a and then title. We want all those title, all those link in this page, link when a tag is used for links, anchor tag it is called. So we want all the link in this page which has title value in the last as form. So here it will give us all those title, all those link which has title value form, which has like form in the title value. Now press enter. There are two elements which has form in the title attribute. Okay, and let's take some other example as well. Here this doesn't have any attribute. Forum title. So this also shows two attribute, two elements matching. Then there could be like more elements, more example. Let me show you here in Google. So for an example, if we want to write an CSS selector for this element, Google search here. So you start writing here input, and then value we want with this attribute value. So you just type value is equal to Google search. So here also it is matching two elements. Now you see that if you want to write all those which has and as search, so what we can do, like of course you can delete this value and put the dollar here. You will see it is showing two elements matching, but if you remove the dollar, then it will show zero matching node, because value is equal to search, there is nothing. So dollar is for end value. If you want to write CSS selector which is start with Google, so add Google here, it is end with, right? Now if you put cap over here, so cap is for start with. Now you see that it is giving the results. Suppose we have to write the Xpath CSS selector which has in which we want contains. So let's say if we remove this geo and just want ogle, then you, in place of cap, if you have cap, then it will not work. Now you'll have to use star. Press enter, then it's showing matching nodes. Okay, so this way it will show the results. So we have learned three functions now. uh, Star, which is ending value of attribute value, cap start value, star substring of attribute value. Now you see that it is having uppercase and lowercase in the value. How can we make it like uh, ignore, like I mean ignore the cases? We want to write a CSS selector so that like if somebody makes a mistake while writing and make it like this, then it, in that case also it should work. Or let's say we never want to use uppercase lowercase, we want to write everything in a small case. In that case you can use I is very powerful function in case of CSS selector. Just add a space here after ending value, single quote or double quote, whatever you are using, space, and then type I, press enter. Now you will get the results. So I is to for ignore the case in case of CSS selector. So this is how you can write your CSS selector by using different functions. And if you want to like make it unique, there will be functions, there will be some attribute values which will be unique for that particular element, so that anyways you will get it from SelectorsHub. Like while you will be writing over here, you will get that whatever values, or if class or anything is unique, that you will get it, and that way you can make it unique. In the next lecture, we will learn about writing relative CSS selector with parent. Thank you. Hello friend. Let's learn about how to write relative CSS selector with parent. So like we have written CSS selector, we were writing for this element, right? In the previous lecture, if you remember, when we were writing this, So we have seen that it was forming uh, title. With title we were writing, it was finding two matching node, right? But if we have to make it unique, then we'll have to uh, do some magic here. Basically we'll have to find out a unique parent with respect to which we will write a CSS selector for this element. And here we are not getting some any like unique attribute. I won't suggest to use href attribute, because it has forward slash, and sometimes it also change value also change, so avoid using such kind of attribute. Then title we have tried, but it is finding more than one matching node. So let's see some of any parent which looks stable and unique, right? So these elements, which is the immediate parent, doesn't look like good, because class value is pretty long. So we'll check the next one, which is ul. Yes, so this looks little better than this one, so we will try with this element. Okay, to write the CSS selector with respect to any parent, so just click on that element, and here if you see that, so basically it is something like, first we will have to write the CSS selector for that parent, and then from that we will traverse to that child. So here you just add a space here and type hashtag, so it will give you the ID value of this one. Select this element and add a space. After that, write CSS selector for that element for which you want to write the CSS selector, and now press enter. So if you see that, this is one element matching now. So if you remember that in previous lecture we have learned that space is the uh, of space is a function in CSS selector which is used for descendant, like for this one, this element. So if you add space between them, between this selector and this selector, it will find the selector for this particular element. Okay, and if you see that there's a trick, like if you just press delete the values, you will learn that like, okay, what all things are possible when it's not getting the wrong element, like when it will be invalid CSS selector. And if you click on this here, if you want to learn more about uh, CSS and Xpath functions, so you can click on this particular element button link here. It will take you to that page where you will learn more about CSS selectors and Xpath functions. Then let's take more example about the parent element. Let's say we have to write an CSS selector for this password field here. Okay, so open here SelectorsHub, start typing input tag name, and then any of the attribute you can take. Let's say name we'll take. Here it's finding three matching node. Okay, now we will look for the parent element, any of the parent element which could be the unique one. So if you see that, let's try this one. Okay, the immediate parent of this, so we'll add a space here. Then class looks like here, so class is there, we can try with class and add a space. It is still finding three matching node. Then we'll go one more up, level up, space form group dot sorry, this one, you will have to select that particular element over here to get the right drop down value. From group is add space, still three matching node. Then we'll go to this parent dot, select this element, add a space, sorry, dot here, remove this dot, press enter. Two elements is still matching. Then we'll have to go further one more level up to see which parent could be the unique one for this particular element. So likewise we will have to keep going up, and you can remove this in between values, in between parents which are not unique, and press enter. You see that we have sorted the value. And of course you can make it unique as well by looking for some element which could be the unique one. And let's try for this element here. Now space, sorry, here dot group elements space add. Here you will have to add dot still two elements. So likewise, like you will have to keep going one level up to find out the unique elements over here, and you can remove the space in between. So let's try one more form area, and here class looks static, so we'll check with this login area space still two matching node. So likewise we will have to traverse a lot, and you can anytime in between you can remove the values. And also you can try with like some other attribute by adding more attributes in that conditions. So that way you would be able to write. So this I showed one like where you can not easy to find out the unique CSS selector. Here it takes a lot of time. If you just turn on this SelectorsHub dynamic automatically generating feature, you will see that if you inspect this particular element like the password field, this is so simple, like it gives you immediately you can write the CSS selector this way. So in place of like name, if we would have used the placeholder, it immediately we would have written the CSS selector. So this is another way, good way. Like here if you because I wanted to give you guys the example of like writing the CSS selector with respect to parent, so that's why I showed you. If you could have used this one, immediately you can get it. So we have seen the example of writing CSS selector with respect to parent. In the next lecture we will see how we can write like different axes like adjacent, child, immediate, child, etc. That we will see in the next lecture. Thank you. Hello friend. In this lecture we will learn about some really good functions in CSS selector, and we'll try to write relative CSS selector with axes, and we'll learn about them. So there are a lot of axis functions like we have learned in Xpath. These are really good. The very first one, the space combinator, which we have already seen in the previous lecture, that we can select nodes that are descendant of the first element by space. So like we have written there for forum we were writing, and then we have added the space. Likewise, for an example here, if we have to write an XPath, suppose if we write an CSS selector for this one, so let me show you that space combinator which we have already seen that, just I'm repeating that again. So for an example, if we write and start writing CSS selector for this one, let's say we start with ID and we type hash, then we want the we want to join this one with this. So if we put a space and then we type a here, this will give the immediate descendant, which is this one space. So this is the space function in CSS selector which we use for descendants. Like if we have written ul, so this is also for this ul, a is descendant, li is descendant. So in case if you want this one, let's remove this, and here also id is available, so select this one. Now this is ul, and after that we want the li space li, so it will give all the descendants of this. But suppose if you want the this a, so you what we can do here, you just type a and it will give all the descendants of this one which are a. So this is the first one, and then under this one there will be, so this is 2. So it used to add the selectors of used to add the attribute css is equal to 1, css is equal to 2, so according to the occurrences of them. So that's how, like, this is the space is the descendants to join two elements. This is really useful. Like here for an example, if this one we have seen, if we would have to write an CSS selector with respect to some parent which is let's say for time being we'll keep it off. For this element, if we are writing a CSS selector, but if we are not able to make it unique, suppose let's say placeholder, if we take it here, this is 5 matching node, and we know that this is the parent one. This doesn't look unique, this is not unique, this could be the unique one, this parent. So 1 2 3, so you see that we will skip these two and we'll directly join this one. So let's join this one. Dot class, we can use it here, and space, you see two elements matching. So here it's still two matching nodes, two elements are matching. This we can make it unique, but you can see that space is the uh, function here. And don't worry, there are like a lot of functions here which could be like little bit confusing for you. So here I'm giving you a hint here. When you will be if you will be writing here anything wrong, that there will be a page, click to learn more about selectors error, or there will be here, if you click on this, it will take you to this page where our Xpath function and CSS functions has been already written. So if you come down here, there will be CSS selector function. Here all those functions are written, anytime you can refer them. So don't worry about that, because yes, these are little bit confusing at first, like you will be confused, okay, which one to use, which because even sometime we all used to forget if we will not keep practicing every day. So yeah, so don't worry about them, you can anytime read these definitions here and the use cases, and of course you can refer back this tutorial. Next is child combinator. Let's see what's then. Yeah, so next is child combinator. This arrow combinator selects nodes that are direct children of the first element. So suppose if we have to write, so direct children here, if we are writing for this one, let's say this we have written, and now we want the immediate child. So this, if you type, SelectorsHub itself will suggest you which are the immediate child of this one. Now if we are writing for UL, you see that when you will be writing for this particular element, and now if you type arrow, it will suggest li, because li is the immediate child, not a. So this way you can form the CSS selector. So the like what where will be the use case of this? So suppose you have an element like this one and you are not able to make it unique for this element, then in that case you can join with this arrow key to make the unique CSS selector with respect to parent using the child function. Okay, yeah. So this is the use of like child. And now if you want to make it unique, then in that case, like whichever li you want, let's say this li we want to write, so here you can put and this, and there you go. So this is how we have made the we have written the relative CSS selector for this element with respect to this parent. Okay, you will have to means watch it again and again, and then practice it, because little complicated, I mean not complicated, confusing, because same things are happening over here. This combinator selects the siblings. This means that the second element follows the first, though not necessarily immediately. So this was the direct children, this is the sibling, but not immediate, it could be both. Let's see this one here. If we see the this one for UL first, type UL, press enter. Okay, now you see that there are no sibling for this UL. So hopefully when you will type this, it will not show anything. Okay, now let's see something which has siblings. Let's say this li. So this li, if you see, it has these many siblings, these are siblings of this li. So now let's type li and space, and then you type, so it's showing you yes, there are siblings, and if you press enter, it will show all of them. So here it was li, and immediately li it was. If something else is there, like let's say here If we take an example for here, if some, yeah, so here it is, you see that this is span input. So if you type input here, one second, let me refresh this page. For this input box, if we inspect this, and this input box has immediately like yeah, this input, if we type here, so now if you see that this span is the, this span and this span is the sibling of this input. So when you will type, it will show that. And if you inspect in span, and if you have written span here and then you type, then it will show it's not the input immediate one, so it's not showing that one. So if that will be the immediate sibling, then it will show. So combinator siblings, this means that the second element follows the first one, though not necessarily immediate, but and both are the same parent. So if it is under same parent, so this div, this input and this span is under same parent, then it will show the sibling, not necessarily like it says immediate one. Little, again I would say little confusing, but don't worry about that. When you will do more practices about around that, you would be able to learn that. So for an example, if see here, if we write a here, and now you want the immediate sibling for this one, so if you type this, it will show ul here. So here it is showing all those ul which are the immediate sibling of a. So these are all ul which are having immediate sibling as a. Okay, then plus combinator, select adjacent siblings. This means that the second element directly follows the first and both share the same parent. So plus combinator, select adjacent sibling. This means that the second element directly follows the first one. So now if we want the immediate sorry, adjacent sibling, like here for this li, this is the adjacent sibling. So if you type here, or not, let's say not take the li one, we'll take this one so that it will be more sensible, because li is there. A, if we type a here, then we type plus, it will show ul, because that is the uh, plus shows the adjacent sibling. Okay, and let me take some other example over here. Okay, all are li, yep, a is here. Okay, and li, yes. So for if we take this a, then it will give on plus, it will give the div this. So this is the immediate adjacent sibling. Adjacent sibling means just nearby. Let's take some other example here. So for h3, ul is the immediate sibling. So if here we want so here if we want to write the uh, css selector for this element with respect to this, uh, or say if you want to write yeah, so if you want to write the css selector for this one with respect to this, then first we will write h3, and then we want plus this ul. Okay, so you select this one here, it is giving all the ul which are the adjacent sibling of h3, but we want this one, right? So what we can do here, we can choose this id and we'll make it unique. So this is, we have written css selector for this ul with respect to this h3. First child, last child, nth child. So yeah, there are like a lot of functions here now. So let's say we want the here for this one, if you just type here ul, and now you want first child, so here you type just colon, sorry, if there will be any first child or second child, then it will show you all of them. Like as soon as you type uh, tag name colon, you just type and then it will show like whatever options will be available. So if we started first child, yes, so you see here it is showing uh, all the ul. So by this mean, when you type ul colon first child, it means give me all the ul in this page which are the first child of its parent. So you see here the difference now, that this ul is not the first child of its parent. This is its parent, and this ul is not the first child. First child is h3 here. That is the region that you see here. It is not added. SelectorsHub has not added any css attribute here. So these are the ul which are the first child of its parent. Like for an example, if I take some which is the immediate sorry, first child of its parent. So like here, this a is the first child of its parent, because you see this li and this is a. So if we type here a colon first child, now you see that it has been, it is, this is the fourth a, which is the first child of its parent. Okay. So if you have to ever figure it out, like, or if you have to ever find out, like if somebody asks you find out all the links in this page which is the first child of its parent, then you can quickly find out. If somebody asks like find out all the headers uh, which are the immediate child, first child of its parent, then you can quickly just h3 colon first child. This will give you all the h3 in this page which are the first child of its parent. Likewise, you have these other functions as well, like last child, like give me all the h3 which are the last child of its parent. So this is really, I mean, it's good in some cases, like if you need. So you see that this is the h3 which is the first child of its last child of its parent, in fact the first child as well, because this is immediate. So likewise all these functions are there: first child, last child, nth child. So here if you want like nth child, here you will have to pass the value, like which one, the first one. Nth child means like which nth child. So this is basically again like the first one or the second one. So if you enter those values, then it will give according to that. So you see here you are looking for those h3 which are the second child of its parent. But here you see that now it's not finding this one. Why? Because this is the first and last child, because this is not at the second position. But if you inspect this one, let me inspect this one. So you see that this is at the second position of its parent. I hope you will understand. If you don't understand, like go watch this tutorial slowly, one by, I mean in second by second, so that you would be able to understand, because little bit confusing. You see here, this is h3 is the second child of its parent. We have put the 2 here, nth child 2, basically the second number child we are looking for. If you put the 3 here, the third number child, find out all the h3 which are at the third position of its parent, then there are no one. You see, put, so this is the second, that's why it's showing. Likewise nth last child, first of type, last of type. Okay, so we have seen this one, nth last child, nth last child, pass the value here 1. So why it is giving? Because this is the last this one, like we have seen that this was the last child from the bottom. So basically this is from the bottom, and this is from the top. Nth child from the top, nth child from the bottom. Okay, so if you would have put it here like 2, then it will give all those which are at the second position from the last. So 1 and 2, you see 1 and 2. So here it is, this is why it is finding. First of type, So this will give all those h3s which are its type. So basically like all h3 it will give, because h3, yes, it is there, last of type. Not much difference. So hope it, this will yes, this tutorial was like little bit confusing, but it is good conceptually. Like you would be knowing all those functions, you will learn about those. And I mean, on daily practice, if I say frankly, like not anybody use every day. This is just for like definition purpose, and you should know about these functions. That's why it's here. But in general, not every day we use it. Mostly we use it the space combinator. So this is useful. That's why I kept it on top. And we have already seen multiple examples and seen in previous tutorial. So this space tutorial will solve all your problems. Rest are good, and I mean sometimes we will use this arrow as well. So and rest are good for like knowledge purpose, and these first child, last child, also nth child is also good. Okay, yeah, thank you. In the next lecture we will learn about svg elements. Hi friend, css selector for svg elements. Okay, so previous lecture was like little lengthy and confusing. Let me make it this one very easy and short. Very first thing, like it is not like Xpath. Like for Xpath we have a different syntax for svg elements. In case of CSS selector, there is no difference for SVG elements. SVG elements supports the standard CSS selector format. So we need not to learn anything separately for SVG element. Just that, yes, you should be aware about that. Whenever you inspect any element, you should know that that element is the SVG element. So for an example, if there is any SVG element on the page, and if you inspected that particular element, then this is good that you should know that this is a svg element. Like this, in selectors it immediately highlight that this is css selector. But if you want to write a css selector for svg element, the standard format, standard formula, if class is there, then dot class, if id is there, hashtag id, if nothing is there, like yes, you know that tag name, immediately you can start typing that tag name. So here if it is not finding unique, so now you have learned that how to write the uh, with the parents and everything. So it's svg space, and then you know that. And here you can use those formulas, like if you want with attributes and something like that. So yes, that you all you can do it here. So this is good and really helpful, and it's very simple and straightforward. I will keep it like simple. svg formats are standard format of css selector support svg. So we need not to learn anything uh, specific for svg element in case of css selector, like we had to do in case of xpath. So yeah, this is very simple and standard. Whatever you have learned so far in css selector, the same formula and same all the function and everything will work in case of css selector too. So yeah, this is good. I hope this is easy for you. So thank you. In the next lecture we will learn how to write css selector for shadow DOM elements. Thank you. Hello friend, in this tutorial we will learn about how to write selectors for shadow DOM elements. So okay, before that, writing css selector, if you are not aware about shadow DOM, let me tell you. Shadow DOM is an DOM inside DOM, and it is basically a partial DOM. And how you will get to know that this is a shadow DOM, in the DOM you will see that there will be a shadow root, and it could be open and closed. In it will be in two format, like this. Here it is open. So this element is not inside this shadow DOM, it is inside this shadow DOM. You see that this is open and rest all are closed. So this element is inside this shadow DOM, and this shadow root, basically it will not show as shadow DOM here in the DOM. You will find as shadow root open. And there are two types, one is open and another is closed. So here in LinkedIn, if you inspect these header svg icons, these there you will see that shadow root closed. So there are two types of shadow DOM or shadow root, you can say, open and close. So this was the definition of shadow DOM, that shadow DOM is a DOM inside DOM. It is a partial DOM. It will always attach to an element of the actual DOM. So you see that this shadow DOM is attached to this element. A shadow DOM cannot exist without a DOM. So there are a lot, I mean, multiple things to tell in the shadow DOM, but don't worry about that. Don't get confused so much with the definition. You have to, like when you will be writing selectors for shadow DOM, you have to just focus that if you find any element inside this shadow root, that means there in your mind it should trigger that this element is inside shadow DOM. And now how selectors hub will help you in this case, as soon as you will open here, selectors hub will immediately tell you that this element is inside shadow DOM. And you can if you keep it off, then it will show here, and otherwise like other information it will also tell you. And now the good thing is that like if shadow DOM, I would say not a good or bad thing, but yeah, this is an standard. Of course this is a bad thing that shadow DOM doesn't support XPath. So we can access shadow DOM element only through CSS selector. You see that this element is inside shadow DOM, and for such elements XPath won't support. Okay, so now only option left with us that we will have to write the CSS selector for shadow DOM elements. So it by default gives you, of course, auto generated. You for now you can keep it off. And this is the another good thing is that only now it became possible to verify selectors for shadow DOM, to write and verify selectors for shadow DOM through SelectorsHub. You cannot verify selectors here in Chrome DevTools or in any tool. If you write, let's say here for this one ID is there, so we can write hashed input, right? But you see that it is showing 0 of 0. So Selectors Hub is the only possible solution, only innovation which made it possible. So you guys are lucky that now we have this solution to write and verify selectors for shadow DOM. Earlier, then you must be having the question, then how people were doing in past. Trust me, they were like hit and trial. Okay, we have written this selector, this might work. They use this selector in their script, and then they execute. If pass, then fine. If fail, then they again try next one. So imagine like if you have to write 100 CSS selector for shadow DOM elements, and then you keep on hit and trial, how much time it will take through a script. So that much time they used to waste it. But yeah, now it's possible. So here also you can write it like hash input. You see, you can write and verify in any format. You can write like whichever we have learned, like this with attribute, or just like with ID or class. So whatever it available, you can write with that. If it is an see you here in shadow DOM, if we would have inspected any element, and if that element is SVG, it will show SVG. If you keep it on, it will tell you that this element is inside shadow DOM, because now this is SVG as well as inside shadow root. Okay, so it tells you that both the things. Another important point is that for shadow root element, if it is under open, like if that shadow DOM is open, then only we can write CSS selector and we can access those elements. If it is inside closed, we cannot. That is an standard or rule that closed shadow root elements are not accessible. Like here, if you inspect this element, selectors will tell you that this element is inside closed shadow DOM, which is inaccessible. Like this is a standard rule from W3C, or you can say browsers. This element is inside closed shadow DOM, which is inaccessible. So for such element, we can't write selector. So this we cannot write and verify. This we cannot, such kind of elements we can't access. So if it is inside open, then only. So this you will have to remember. This is a rule basically. Now this way you can write. So simple. Let me make it simple again. So basically, there's no another rule for writing selectors for shadow DOM element. Standard format, whatever we have learned, that you can write. in the same way. Only thing is that yes, you should understand that those elements are inside shadow DOM, so you will have to take care. Rest formula is same for CSS selector for shadow DOM elements as well. When you will be writing, if you're writing Selenium script or in any script, you will have to follow certain rules to handle shadow DOM elements. So that code you will have to write while using this CSS selector for shadow DOM, that you will have to check. You cannot directly use driver.find element by.css selector for shadow DOM elements. No, you will have to handle through them through JavaScript and some other script people use, so that you can find it standard one. Okay, so yeah, that's about shadow DOM. Thank you, and in next lecture we will learn about how to handle iframe elements through CSS selector. So yeah, thank you. Hello friend, in this lecture we'll learn how to write basically CSS selector for iframe elements. So okay, let me make it very easy. There is no specific rule or anything specific which we will have to take care while writing CSS selector for iframe elements and for our iframe. The only thing, just that we will have to see and we'll have to be careful. If any element is inside iframe, then we will have to, in our automation script, we will have to switch inside iframe. That is the only thing that you will have to handle while writing automation script. Otherwise, while writing CSS selector for iframe elements, there is no extra rule in like by default. When you will inspect any element, if that element is inside iframe through DOM, immediately you will not get to know. You will have to scroll up and down, so that of course will take a lot of time and waste of time. uh, Earlier, without selectors of, people used to like, they used to write CSS selector here, then they use it in their script, then script fail, then they used to keep on figuring out like why it is failing. Then after some time they used to get to know that okay, this element is inside this iframe, that's why it is failing. You see in the DOM here. So whenever you find that your element is inside this iframe and then document, then that means that element is inside iframe. That is the one thing you will have to learn in the DOM. Iframe or frame, there, this tag you see that iframe, there's one more tag frame, I will not be there. So there are two types of this. So if whenever you find your element inside this iframe or frame, then you will have to take care while writing automation script. For CSS selector, there is nothing specific. Same way you can write, same formula will work like we were writing, and that way you would be able to write CSS selector for iframe element. And the same for iframe, if you will have to write a selector for iframe as well, so that you can write same way here. So this way you can write selectors for iframe and iframe elements. If you would have turned it on, you see that selectors will give you both iframe Xpath as well as CSS selector for inspected element Xpath, and everything it will give, so that you will not have to worry. But if you are on editor mode, you want to write it your own, so that way you just inspect the element. If that element will be inside iframe, it will tell you that this is in iframe, and then you can build your own CSS selector here, simply and very easy. And this is no extra rule to write CSS selector. The same formula will work whatever we have learned so far. Okay, so yeah, thank you, and in the next tutorial we will see how to write CSS selector for dynamic drop down elements. Hello friend, let's learn about how to write CSS selector for drop down elements. There are multiple types of drop down, like normal drop down which we are able to inspect them. Then there are drop downs which we can't, drop down values which we can't inspect easy, I mean which we can't inspect easily. And there are some drop down values which are not easily possible through like I mean by click or right click. So let's see what all types are there. So let me first show you the simple one which we can at least inspect and write CSS selector. So suppose here, if you just hover on these elements, so there is this drop down. Okay, on test project website, if you right click on this and inspect, you see that we are able to inspect that particular element. So we have inspected this advanced scripting capabilities here under platform. right? So we are able to inspect this element. If you inspect any other element, like let's say EG test automation, inspect. So yes, we are able to inspect. So we can write CSS selector for such elements easily. So like you can keep it on or off, doesn't matter. A here, okay, and then you see that those options are available. So here we have written, and now if you hover that, this is that element is highlighted by selectors up here. Okay, so this way we can write that these are simple drop downs which we are able to inspect. On inspecting, we are able to find them in DOM. So these are simple one, we can write them. Now dynamic drop downs which we cannot inspect easily, like these drop downs. Let's say if we inspect here under on flipkart.com, if you inspect this health and uh, under electronics, if you inspect any element, let's say mobile accessories, inspect, you see that that element is not showing in DOM. We are not able to inspect that particular element easily here. There are ways, like you can F12, then hold and debug, turn on debug mode. So yes, that way it is possible, but easily it is not possible. You see that that element is not up, not able to inspect. Now what is the solution in that case? Yes, selectors hub comes with amazing comes as a like a boon here in this in such situations. So you just right click on that particular element, and here you see that copy relative XPath option is there. We can have all the options here. You just uh, on the context menu, just which all options you want, you can keep it turn on here. If you want off, you can off, or all the options which you want, you can turn it on here. Now if you right click and inspect any element for which you want the XPath or CSS selector, whatever you want, you can just click on this. So now if you come here on selector sub channel, uh, and you see that it is not showing any of the nothing it is showing, because none of the element is inspected here. That is the reason. If you inspect it here, then it will come here. Now let's paste the value which we have copied from the drop down. Now press enter. You see it is showing 0 matching node. But if you hover on this, now if we will press enter, then it will highlight that particular element for which we have copied the CSS selector, because on hover that element is loading on the DOM. Now press enter, you see that health and personal care we have inspected. Now suppose if you want mobile accessories, let's copy that one. Let me copy the relative XPath, because that will have text, so you would be able to understand. You see mobile accessories, right now it is not loaded, so showing 0. If you hover on that and press enter, it is showing. If you want CSS selector for that particular element, right click and you can copy relative CSS selector, this one, and press value, this is the one, hover and then press enter. So this way we will be able to like generate and create the uh, CSS selector, XPath, and whatever value you want to create, that you can easily generate and get the values from here. Now there are drop downs which are not possible. Even by right click we cannot get those values of drop means by copying the value by right click also we cannot copy the value. Let's say here if we search for Goa and these drop downs, if you want, as soon as you will right click and copy, you see that that is gone here. From here you see, if you type anything on any action, like as soon as we do right click, that used to go away. If you now copy, that value will not come. So then what to do here in this case? Like let's say Lucknow, if we right click and copy this value, what it gives, let's see. I believe it will not give the right value. You see it gives something random value, this element. Okay, so right now it is not possible, but yes, an innovation has done, it's under testing and it will be released soon with SelectorsHub 3.0 next version. Let me show you a glimpse of that, how that feature will work. So suppose here you want this feature, we want to inspect. Let me just first refresh the page, because just turn it on. Okay, still it is showing me 3.0. We want to see next version of selector sub here. Yes, so this is the next version of selector sub which you are seeing now. Here if you type go up, let's say, and you see that we are not able to inspect this element, right? So what you will have to do before doing that, you just turn it on here, this turn on debugger button is going to come here. Click on this. Now you just type here go up, and you will be able we will be able to inspect this element now, and we will be able to write that CSS selector or Xpath for such elements as well. So now you can easily write it here and build the CSS selector for this particular element. So yeah, this will also be possible in the next release. So yeah, that's what about like writing CSS selectors for dynamic drop down, normal drop down elements. So if you are able to inspect that element and that value is available in the DOM, then yes, then you can say I mean, then you can write the CSS selector for that. If that is dynamic, not coming in DOM, you can copy the value, and in the from the next version, you would be able to even inspect, even you will be able to inspect those elements which are not which we are not able to inspect today. So yeah, that's what all about dynamic dropdowns. In the next lecture, we will see the tips and tricks to save more time while writing automation script and using CSS selector, XPath, etc. Thank you. Hello friend. So let's learn some tips and tricks to save a lot of time while writing automation script. And it's very simple. We have already learned all of them. Just wanted to highlight few of amazing tips which can save a huge amount of time for you. And before that, yes, a big announcement. Selectors for Safari is available now. Selectors for Safari, this is a very first locator extension which can save a huge amount of time for you. So I would highly recommend you, please go and try this one. Selectors for Safari, if you just click on here, and here you can see that it is available. It will be you will have to open it in App Store. And one thing I would like to highlight here, that for Safari it is not free, because the reason I had to make it as in-app purchase, because Apple doesn't allow to add the donation link and patron link. So to that is the reason that I had to make it like paid here in-app purchase option. So, and but don't worry about that, I had made it like kept it very minimal, just a coffee cost. So I'm sure like whatever I'm doing for community, so hope you guys can support me, just a coffee cost per month. So I hope you won't mind to offer me a coffee. So I would really request you, please try this one. This is a really amazing innovation for Safari, and it has really amazing feature. Do check out the video tutorial for Selectors Hub in my YouTube channel, and there are like a lot of amazing videos as well in Selectors Hub official video channel. So I would highly recommend you guys to go and subscribe the channel and watch the videos here, because they I mean, a lot of videos I have created there which has on the like very good concepts. You would be able to learn like new things, that how you can create different XPath, and what are the misconception tips and tricks, and really good things are there. So you can check out here, and definitely don't forget to subscribe the channel here on the YouTube, because a lot of amazing good videos with the good concepts I used to keep creating them and putting it here. So you will be able to watch them. And here's the launch event. You can watch this Safari launch event here, and this is the tutorial. So definitely I would highly recommend you to check out that. Okay, now coming to the tips and tricks. Open Selector Sub. By default, when you open Selector Sub, it will open with this view here. So I would recommend, like, once if you are good in writing selectors, there is no harm to get these CSS XPath or selectors and copy and paste in your script. Once you are confident enough that you know them and you want to save time, yes, in single click you can get these values and you can use it in your project. You see that this is a very reliable and stable selector. You can use it in your script. So it is recommended once you are good in that. good in writing, or otherwise you can always use SelectorsHub as an editor. Then when you will be copying these value, if you will be putting it in your script, then you will have to add the command as well, right? Driver dot find element, something like that, so that everybody used to have in their project. So for that, to save that time as well, here you have a set driver command feature. Click on this, and here you can set your driver command, driver dot find element. And here you will have to take care that wherever you have written xpath in your command, just replace that xpath with xpath value and press enter. You see that it has created the command for you, find element. And here if you have that find element by xpath, so just add that as well here. And wherever you have written xpath, replace that with xpath value keyword. Here is the, like, also I have given the example, so don't worry about that, you can check that. So this way it will replace all of them and it will create all the commands here. Now you can directly click here and copy the value. You, if you want to edit anything in this command, you click on this, it will copy paste here, you can do that. So it's all very easy. If you are writing in Cypress, then you must be having this kind of command, cy.get. Here wherever you are writing your CSS selector, just replace that with xpath value keyword, press enter, your command is ready. So this you can directly copy and paste, and now if you inspect those value, you will always get those command. And you need not to set this command again and again, because for your framework it is always same, right? So whenever you doesn't want with command, you just click on this, it will be hidden. Next time when you will come, it will open, SelectorsHub will open with your view, whatever you have set. And again, if you want to append the command, just turn on, click on this, your command is already here, you see that it is added. So this is really good. Now suppose if you want to generate selectors with any particular attribute, because right now, let's keep this command off if you want. Like right now it is generating with id, you don't want with id, you can uncheck that, you have the shortcut. You see that it is generating with class, but here it is an alert icon, class looks dynamic. SelectorsHub suggest you that class looks dynamic, uncheck the class box. Okay, but if you know that if it is not dynamic, then you can keep it. So here you can uncheck, you see that it is generated with something else. Now suppose you want to generate with something else which is not option here. So suppose you want to generate with item id, that attribute you pass it here. This is your particular attribute, you can pass it here, it will generate with your attribute if that will be available here. Now you inspect any element, it will generate with this attribute item id. Basically the first preference will be the item id, and then it will give to other. So basically this is an attribute filter, so this will help you a lot to save a lot more time. And so now here you have, we have set the command, we have set the attribute. So next time when you will open, it will open with your setting. When you will open SelectorsHub, it opens with your view, your setting. If you doesn't want to see all of this, you just keep it off, it will not show. And this is as simple as that. And if you just want to use as an editor, you can choose as an editor. So this is really helpful. Also it has this context menu option, if you want, like you, this is much more even further simplifies your things. Like if you doesn't want to open DevTools directly, you can copy the value from here, any of them, like Xpath or CSS Selector, anything you can copy direct from there. And if you don't want to see, like absolute Xpath is no use of for you, if you're not writing in JavaScript, then JSpath is not use of for you, then you can keep it off. And if you right click now, you will see only two options, relative CSS Selector and relative Xpath. So this is going to help you a lot while writing your automation script, and it will save a huge amount of time. And trust me, if you compare the XPath values and whatever you are getting here, compare with any other tool out there, you will see how robust and good CSS selector you get here in SelectorsHub. I mean, you can trust anytime. It is a much better and very reliable selectors. You will get the best one here. Anything like, let's say for an example, this one, this element, if you copy the value of let's say selector, if we copy, you see the what kind of selector Chrome DevTools gives, and what you get it from CSS selector. This is a relative CSS selector which you get from SelectorsHub. This is one which you get from Chrome DevTools. and you can compare with any other tool as well. So you will always rely on this. So yeah, this is really helpful and I'm sure you love it. So yeah, and thank you. And next we will be taking the selectors challenge. So whatever we have learned so far, now that we will test here. And I would request you guys, if you loved it, don't forget to add the review and rating for this course as well as for Selectors Hub here in Chrome store, in whichever browser store you are using. Please add the review and rating, and don't forget to share the Selectors Hub, because I'm sure now you would have learned that how useful it is. And actually this is the right platform, only right platform which gives you the right information, only right platform where you can verify selectors. Even Chrome DevTools people, I mean, we all say that we write our own selectors, but we use here browser DevTools to verify them, which is not the right platform. So please let everyone know that what is the right platform to write and verify CSS selector. And it also, it is absolutely free, so it helps them. So yeah, and please support if you feel that these courses and this selector sub is helping you, like in saving some time for you, and you feel that it is helping in your job and you are able to make some money out of it, then please be a patron of our selector sub or donate here. I would really recommend you to please be a patron and support selector sub, so that I would be able to uh, keep creating such free tutorial and keep working hard on selector sub to support you guys and the community. And I will not have to find out other ways to earn money, like putting ads or something like that. So it will help me and encourage me to support you guys to create such tutorials and everything, and keep innovating new things for you guys. So yeah, thank you, and see you in the next lecture. Thank you. Hello friend, so let's take the selectors challenge now. The very first question: how to write a CSS selector using a part of attribute value? For example, attribute value is selectors hub locator challenge, and here we have to write the CSS selector using value just locator. So basically it is, we are looking for contains. So the very first option is tag name attribute name is equal to part of attribute value. So this is basically, the first option is no, not correct, because directly it is comparing the value, so we cannot use the part of value. Dollar, if you guys remember that dollar was used for ends with. So if we are writing, if we would have writing here selectors, I mean using challenge only, then we could have used it dollar, because dollar is for ends with, cap is for starts with, star is for contains value. So basically the answer is D here. I have given the answer, but I would request you, like when you are reading this question, so think about that and try to remind those things, so that you will be able to recall that. And or let me just one give me one let me give you one example here, so that it will be easy for you to recall that. Here, if you see, if we start writing input, let's say, and let's say placeholder we are writing, okay. So this one cap, so as I told you, cap is for starts with, okay. So the value is starting with enter, right? So here it will find. Now here it was let's delete this value now and see dollar. Dollar is for end with. So if you have this value email, then it will work. If you remove this email from last, then it will not work in this case, because this is a starting value. Then in this case cap will work. Our question was contains, right? If we use star, then it will work. Now it will work even in case of yours as well, because that is contains value. So this is helpful. Hope you are able to recall that. Write the unique relative CSS selector and relative XPath without using indexes for enter your email box using the name attribute. Okay, so this is the link that which I have given over there. Here we have to write the CSS selector as well as XPath for this field. Enter your email box using name attribute. Okay, so let's open here SelectorsHub. First we will write Xpath. First we will write the relative CSS selector, then will Xpath. Okay, so here we will write for this one first. Let's say input, then name. Okay, 5. Now we have to check for the parent one. So which parent could be the unique? This is not its parent, this is its parent. Input group, input block. So but this doesn't look like unique for me. Form group, it doesn't look like that unique. Email ID, this looks like little bit unique for me. So what we will do, let's keep it off for now. So just click on this so that we will get the drop smart values here. Keep it in opened, then start typing here div, then we want class. So this is how we have created the unique CSS relative CSS selector for this field. Okay, so this is CSS selector. Now we want the XPath, relative XPath. So what we can do, I hope you guys means know this. Just replace that space thing and double forward slash, press enter. Sorry, no, this is not, I did wrong, because XPath required @ So let's first write a XPath for this one. Div @class. This is the parent element. Now we want for email box. Then here input, and here we want with name. And this is the relative XPath which we have written. So you see that if you would have started with this element and then this parent, immediate parent, then definitely it will not give the unique XPath. As we have directly jumped to that parent which is unique, that's why we were able to write so quickly. But trust me, when you will try it, you will first write for this one, then you will use this one. This is what people does. Let me show you how here they will put, then write like this, /div and then class, and there it will give you more, and then you will one by one you will go. Then you will use this one, then you will use this one. So basically we have removed already these two and directly we have connected with this one. So always see in the DOM that which attribute, which parent could be unique, which parent looks like a unique. So this email ID, from this email ID I thought this could be unique, because form group and this input group, input block, this looks like okay common words. So always try to think in the mind and use your common sense by looking at the attribute values which could be the unique and stable one. That's why you would be able to write better XPath and better CSS selector. And here is another trick, like when you will be writing a XPath here, and if you press enter, SelectorsHub gives you the CSS selector for your XPath. So if you see that this is the XPath you have written and this is the CSS selector it has given for your XPath. So basically you can convert your XPath into CSS selector as well through SelectorsHub easily, and it will give you much better, of course. Which CSS selector is case insensitive? Awesome. So this we haven't learned in the tutorials because I kept it for this one here. This is very good. So let me first teach you how that is. So if you are writing a CSS selector for any element, let's say, and you find caps, or let's say for this example, this one, if we are writing here input with placeholder, and here you see that it is having lowercase and uppercase values, like E is in caps and rest is in small. So many times what happen, like while typing we miss it, like suppose Y we have capped is caps, now it will say 0. So in those kind of situations it becomes like annoying and like unnecessarily our script is failing. So how to manage that, how to deal with that? Yes, in this case what we can do, we can write the CSS selector case insensitive just by adding the I here. At the last, before closing square bracket, put I value, I space, like this space I have added one, and then I press enter. You see that it is finding the value. Now our CSS selector became case insensitive. So if it is, if you write a small or caps, doesn't matter, it will find the value. while you see that this was the exact value. Okay, so I is the function for ignoring the case in CSS selector. So here this is the answer. P item drop prop is equal to description I. Find out the incorrect locator from a given options HTML structure is as below. So you see that div a span a close close. Okay, let's see the option. First option, double forward slash div forward slash a forward slash span text is equal to Gmail, looks correct. Double forward slash div a span dot is equal to Gmail, looks correct. Double forward slash div a forward slash span contains dot comma Gmail, looks correct. Span text is equal to Gmail. So if you remember, this is a CSS selector and CSS selector doesn't support text function. So this is the incorrect locator. So the answer is D. If the desired locator is a part of shadow DOM, which locator strategy should we use? So I'm sure if you remember or if you are able to recall, you know that shadow DOM doesn't support Xpath. So the only option left with us, CSS selector. Okay, so yeah, so that's what pretty much from the selectors challenge. I hope you learned a lot from this tutorial and from this course. So I would really request you, please share it again. I would request please add review for selectors for this course and share it with everyone, and subscribe to the YouTube channel of Selectors Hub. There are a lot of good conceptual video I used to keep adding there, and you will learn a lot about and you will learn about Selectors Hub, new concepts and new feature, what new innovations are coming, and the existing one as well. So with that, thank you, and please support, please donate. All the courses and everything is free for you, and do try it for on Safari browser, Selectors Hub. And please share Selectors Hub with everyone, because not everybody is yet aware about it. It has just been 6 months for Selectors Hub, and it is spreading, and you all are helping, supporting. So huge thanks to all of you, and thank you so much, community, and huge thanks to our primary sponsor, Test Project. Do check out uh, their website. Here is the primary link for Test Project. You can click and check out this free end-to-end test automation tool. This is also really good. So yeah, thank you so much. I wish I will create more such courses, free courses for you all. Thank you. Hello friend. Hope you enjoyed the course. After taking this course, I would highly recommend you to take this certification program to get your certificate. And with this, you will revise all the concepts what you have learned from this course, and as well as you will learn a lot new more things, and everything you will be recalling all the concepts. And this is absolutely free, of course. To take the certification program, just go to selectorsHub.com website. There's a certificate button here. Click on this, and here you will have to take this quiz. It has some few questions over there, really good questions. Just fill the right information over here and take this quiz. After scoring, like you can find it, like once you will pass this quiz, you will get the certificate on your email ID. And before taking this quiz, I would highly recommend you to take this watch this video tutorial to learn more about more good concepts, as well as about Selectors Hub. So I hope you will get this certificate, and you will learn and refresh all what you have learned from this course. So hope you enjoyed a lot this course, and you learned something new, and this will definitely saves a lot of time and good concepts for your automation work and in your career. Thank you so much.